In today's video, I have more about decluttering heirlooms and sentimental items, but mostly I want to focus on hobby items. So if that's something that sounds like you'd like to watch, stick around and let's get started. Hi, my name is Alicia, and on this channel, I like to talk about decluttering and budgeting and DIY, and those things will be coming down the pike shortly. So today I want to talk about decluttering your hobby items mostly and just touch a little bit on the heirlooms and sentimental things because they all kind of wrap up together. Um, so for those who don't know, I am a knitter and a crocheter, and I have done some cross stitch and a little bit of sewing, so I completely understand about decluttering hobby items. And this was brought to my attention just by reading comments on other people's videos, and it gave me an idea to talk about it. So hobby items, especially most hobbies that are crafting are going to be slow crafting, which means that we have a lot of things. And a lot of those things take a lot of time to work on. So it's not unheard of to have yarn, for instance, that's sitting in your stash for 10 years, 15 years. That's not unusual because of how slow our craft is. So I get it. Um, so from my perspective, when I'm looking at hobby items and what to declutter, I have to look at it from a special angle. I have to look at it as how long has this been sitting in the same spot? Am I really ever going to get back to this? Why am I not looking at this? Have I moved on? Right. So, for instance, I started cross stitching when I was about 13 years old, and I had all the things, the 8 o'clock threads, the hoops, all that stuff, and did pretty well. I did a lot of intricate things. But then I noticed about 10 years ago or so, I wasn't cross stitching as much. And maybe that's because I picked up the yarn a little bit more, who knows? But it was definitely one of those things I just didn't really touch. And so I just kind of left it, as we do. Okay, I'll get to it later. I'll get to it later. Um, then I decided, okay, I'm probably not going to want to do this as much anymore because I'm really not getting back to it. But I would like to finish these two projects. You know how that goes. And I had this one really big, intricate fairy design that I wanted to do. It had mushrooms and flowers and all that stuff. And then I had a Four Seasons type of craft that had birds on it and stuff. So it was spring, summer, fall, winter. And I really wanted to finish those things. But I noticed when I started to pick it back up, I don't know, about 8 years ago or so, I was having a really hard time with my brain registering where the stitches were. And I'd always be off by a few spaces. It just wasn't making sense to me. I was getting really frustrated. I was like, ugh. So I put it to the side, picked it up a couple years later, same problem. I was like, okay, clearly this is not working. I'm getting frustrated. There's something going on where there's a disconnect between my brain and my hands, and I cannot do this anymore. So I was like, okay, it's time to say goodbye to these things. So I picked up all my cross stitch stuff and the things that were usable, and I donated it to the craft supply place that is the next town over. All right, so that's an example of when it's time to declutter some of your hobby items. Now, what if we're not in that situation and we still want to hold on to those items? That's okay. What I like to do is give myself a time frame. So if I am holding on to something for 5 years and I haven't touched it, it's in the same place, I need to kind of give it a hard look and go, okay, in my gut, do I think I'm going to finish this or touch it or anything? If it's a yes and I'm not wavering, I will hold on to it for a few more years. No problem. It hasn't hurt me sitting in the same space for 5 years. It can sit there for a few more. Or if I decide I want to organize my art stuff, I'll give it a home. You know, if I'm looking at it and I'm wavering, then I really have to think about it and put it in front of my face and go, okay, let me come back to this in a few days or in a few weeks. If I'm still wavering, it's probably time to give it away. You know, ask if anybody wants it or give it to an art donation place, Salvation Army, Goodwill, etc. So that's another way to look at what to do with those hobby items. I have noticed in one comment from a video, somebody held on to some type of craft. I don't remember what it was, for about 10 years or so, and they're glad they held on to it. And that's what I mean, is that if you really feel, with your chest that you're going to get back to this thing, don't declutter just because you haven't touched it in 5, 10 years. Like I said, crafting in general is a slow craft. It's a slow type of thing. Um, so we have to apply years to it. It's not something fast like, I really don't do any fast crafts, so I couldn't even tell you. If you do a fast craft, put a comment in the bottom, because I'd like to know what you do. But and like my husband does woodworking. That's slow. You know, um, Knitting and crochet is slow. Those are my mediums. So that's my basis for comparison. But I know that there's other things out there that are fast. Scrapbooking is probably fast, from what I can tell. I could be wrong. I could be wrong, but it looks fast to me. Uh, so I lost my train of thought. So where I wanted to go with that was, because it's such a slow craft. If you're doing a slow craft, it's okay to hold on to things for a few years because that's just the nature of it. But again, if it's sitting in the same spot for a very long time and you're kind of wavering on it, you may want to think about decluttering that thing. Um, so touching back on my last video about heirlooms and sentimental items, it's the same thing. We're so afraid to use our heirloom items and our sentimental items, but they're meant to be used. Um, and you should definitely use them, especially as you get older, because there's a high chance that when you go, that's your stuff's going to end up in a dumpster. We all have a lot of things that family members don't want. They don't want to hold on to it. They don't want it. It's going to go in an estate sale. It's going to go into a dumpster. It's going to go to, the donation center. Use your items. If you're not using them and you're just holding on to them for the sake of holding on to them and they don't bring you joy, one, you're not honoring the person you got it from, and two, it's just taking up space. So at that point, you really have to give it a hard look and go, okay, is it time to get rid of this? If you know for sure that somebody wants the item and you're holding on to it just for the sake of holding on to it, but you know somebody else definitely wants it, then hold on to it. There's always going to be a situation or a nuance, and that's where you have to make that decision for yourself. But if there's nobody that wants the thing and it's just taking up space and you're not going to use it and you're not honoring the person by using the item, or you're not honoring or dishonoring them because they didn't care about the item and you're holding on to it just for the sake of holding on to it, you have to look at that and go, okay, why do I still have this? Maybe it's time to get rid of it and declutter it. Sentimental items, the same thing. Like I talked about in my last video, I kept a lot of things from when my son was a baby, and I'm like, okay, he's definitely a grown adult now. Let's see if he even wants these things, because I have to purge, because I don't want to make my family go through all my stuff, because I've been the one to clean up other people's things. It's not fun. I might wish that on my worst enemy. I'm being honest. It's a lot, especially if they have a lot of stuff. So I urge you to try to go through your things just so that your loved ones and the people you care about, family, friends, whatever, don't have to go through that. But ask them. And you might be surprised what they want to keep and what they don't want to keep. And then, at that point you got to make a decision and go, okay, well, I know they want those. We're going to keep those. What about these other things that I know that they don't want? They said they don't want. Why am I holding onto it? Because I think it's cute. Okay, but at some point it's going to end up in the trash. So if you're really, really, really wavering on that, okay, hold on to it for a few more years. I don't suggest ever getting rid of something if you're wavering. Like, I really think you should hold on to it for a little bit longer and then try to make a decision rather than just go, oh, I'm wavering. That means no, because life isn't like that. That there's too much nuance there. Um, so definitely, like, just make sure that you are touching all the things, looking at the things, asking, if anybody wants anything, and then just make sure that you know what you have. You know, um, yeah. Before I go, I do want to state probably for the future of other videos, and I may need to put a disclaimer or something in a description box. But I do have ADD and I'm not medicated, so I try very hard to be linear when I speak, but I may end up going off on a tangent here or there. So I just want to put that out there in case I may have lost you somewhere in the video. um, yeah, so if anything in this video resonated with you, please give it a like and think about subscribing. And I will talk to you later. Take care. Bye.